This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. Now, live from the Matt Black Kia Studios.
What a move!
Here's Josh Hennig.
Was last night's Sixers win the most important win of the season? Josh Hennig here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN, the Power Hour, hanging out with you until 7 o'clock each night here on 97.3. As always, you can join the conversation at 609-403-0973 is the text board. Also, if you get the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, well, it's free thanks to First Bank of CI. You could DM the show through the app as well. And that game last night, to me, had a lot of value because we talked about this yesterday here on Game Night, about the fact that the regular season does matter. It's not that the entire season is frivolous or useless, because in all sports, you take things from what happened during the season, and those things carry into the season. And what you saw last night was a Sixers team that found a way to win despite everything to the contrary. Joel Embiid wasn't feeling well, arguably one of his worst shooting nights in recent memory. I mean, it's got to be at least 2-3 years since he's played this bad in terms of, shooting. I know statistically at the end of the game, it looked like he had a good game, but in real time, you saw that Embiid had a really rough night at the office. You had a situation last night where the Sixers played poorly in the first half. And even with Ja Morant not playing well, the Grizzlies got out to a substantial lead last night. And I walked away from the game saying that this is going to be the kind of game that you can look at a couple months from now when the Sixers are in a playoff game and say, I know this team has it in them to fight back. Anybody can win a game by 20 points, but not everyone can come from behind to win a game. Now, yes, part of the value of being at home, as Jeff at Ocean City has been texting in all week at 609-403-0973. Jeff will say, this is why you need home court advantage. And he's right. So part of the value of last night was when the run started, when they started fighting their way back, the fans got behind them. But to me, these are the kind of games that show that they have what it takes to win in the postseason. Tim Legler on Get Up this morning gave his perspective on the importance of last night's win for the 76ers. Last night, as Legler said, this is the kind of game that shows you, hey, this team is more than just Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Buss. And again, I know statistically, if you didn't watch the game, you might feel like, hey, Joel and Harden, they finished with a good stat line. But the stat line is not as important as how the game played out. And how the game played out for me was I saw a team that I don't think they expected Memphis to get out to that big lead in the first half. And I think they had to kind of refine themselves, recalibrate, look each other in the eye and say, all right, boys, tonight's the night we show who and what we're made of. I say that last night is one of the most important moments of this season. And if the 76ers make a run to the NBA Finals, we're going to point back to February 24th because the Grizzlies had the second best record in the Western Conference. And the Grizzlies got a huge lead on you without Ja Morant playing his best game. That's how good Memphis is. Memphis is so good that their best player, one of the 10 best players in the NBA, arguably my second favorite player in the league, Ja Morant, didn't have a Ja Morant kind of night. And even though he didn't have his best game, his team still tried to put a beating on you, literally and figuratively. And you saw, to me, what was the turning point. I know people focused on the scuffle at the end of the game. It was the scuffle earlier in the game that stood out to me. Because it looked like at first the Sixers were going through the motions. The Sixers were kind of waking up from hibernation, basically. And there was a drive to the basket that Harden tried to make. And Dylan Brooks basically hand-checked him. He got called for a foul. And Brooks basically lingered his hand on Harden's hip a little bit too long for Harden's taste. And Harden snapped around at him and gave him the look like, I'm not here to play with you. Like, Harden woke up. And when he woke up in that moment, it was like the rest of the team woke up as well. And even though it took them until the fourth quarter to get the lead, in the second half, the Sixers outscored Memphis in both the third and fourth quarter. But it was in the first half, earlier in the game, that the Sixers had to have that moment happen to snap out of it. And I think that for this team, I think they are at their best when they're psychologically fighting. I don't know if they're at their best when they are the front runner. I don't know if they're at their best if they are the big dog, if they're the big fish in the small pond, if they are the big dog in the fight. I think they are a little better. I'm not going to say it's David and Goliath, but I think that it's similar to, I was actually going to give an analogy, and I just realized that I would have given away a major spoiler. But it's a little like, if I'll go to another movie reference. If anyone has ever watched the highly criticized Batman v Superman movie, and everybody walks in and is like, how is Batman going to fight Superman? He's going to get his rear kicked. And it's like Batman relishes in the idea that he's a mortal man having to figure out how to fight this almost god, lowercase g like figure. And I think for the Sixers, they relish more in being Batman than they do in being Superman. Because I think they relish in the idea that I'm James Harden, I'm a league MVP and a scoring champion, I'm having one of the best seasons of my career, efficiency and all around wise, and I'm not an all-star. It's me against you now. You know, Joel Embiid, 2 straight years, not the MVP, could have been the MVP, might not even get the MVP this year. And yet he turns around and says, I got a chip on my shoulder. Joel Embiid didn't have to play last night. He was obviously under the weather, but he still stepped up and said, I want to fight for this. And it felt like when the other players saw that the 2 stars of this team looked at the circumstances they were in and said, well, they're scrapping and clawing and giving everything they got. What excuse do we have? Because the Sixers do have talent. Embiid, Harden, Maxey, Harris, Melton is arguably one of the, you could make the argument, it's one of the 5 best starting 5s in the league. Because the problem is in today's NBA, with the talent spread out the way it is, everyone knows that Boston and Milwaukee are the two best teams record-wise in the Eastern Conference. And everyone knows that Denver and Memphis are the two best records in the Western Conference. But I think man for man, the Sixers might have a better 1-5 than Memphis does, and a better 1-5 than Boston does. Maybe Milwaukee and Denver had the better 1-5 than Philadelphia, depending on how you measure these things. But I think that for Philadelphia, they're up there. They are up there with some of the best in the league. And as Tim Legler said this morning on Get Up on ESPN television, the Sixers have the talent to compete in the Eastern Conference. And listen, there's no guarantee that when they get to the playoffs, they're going to be able to get the job done. But what I saw last night was a guy in Joel Embiid who says, look, I'm not having a good offensive game. I'm going to step up defensively. I saw a guy in Harden and Maxey that said, hey, I'm not shooting the ball at a high clip from the outside. Let me find other ways to impact this game. You saw PJ Tucker stepping up as the veteran finally in a big game situation. At least for me watching on TV, that was a playoff-like atmosphere in the second half when the fans started getting charged up. And I think that's a big reason why the Sixer fans say, we want home court advantage. We want that 2 seed. We understand we might not get the 1 seed, but we want the 2 seed because this is the environment that we can have to dictate the situation. All right. So I think that when you look long term, I think that this game can have a huge impact on the Sixers when they get to the postseason because this game, the Nets game earlier this year, they had to scrap and claw the way back in. And there were a few other games. When this team has shown me their best, it has been when they're fighting tooth and nail to get that win. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973 is how you get in touch with the show. Paul in Ocean City chimes in, says, Josh, that Embiid block on Morant late in the fourth quarter made a statement. It was one of the best for the ages. It was Paul from Ocean City saying this. It was also good to see Harden and Harris come up big with some threes at the end. Huge win with not 1, not 2, but 3 exclamation points from Paul in Ocean City. Paul, I agree with you. I thought that the Embiid Morant block was a huge statement because most players are going to olay that. They're not going to challenge Morant at the peak. They're not going to risk going on the poster. And Embiid, for that moment, said, I don't care about getting potentially posterized because I believe in myself enough to know that I can block this guy. And it felt like when he had that block, that was the moment that Memphis realized they were going to lose the game. Because Ja is the kind of guy, you could argue that Ja is one of the 3 best athletes in the NBA today, like pure athletes. And he is so dynamic, he is so electric, he is so explosive that you assume every time he goes up for the dunk, he's going to make the dunk. And then when he doesn't, you step back and you say, did that just happen? Did Embiid? Like, you're losing, you're trying to comprehend what just happened, and you realize there's a whole basketball game going on. So I think that Paul from Ocean City is right. That was a huge statement in the game last night. And you mentioned the threes. I thought that the Harris 3 was the biggest 3 of them all because Tobias just catching and shooting in one motion showed you that he's developing the self-belief again to just take advantage of what's being given to him. I think the problem with the bias at times is, he's trying to find his place in this world. He's trying to find himself. And I think that's a huge part of it. I think a huge part of this is the fact that Harris has started to do more than the little things in games. And I think that him shooting that 3 was a huge confidence builder for him and his teammates to say, when you need me, I'll be there. And I think that is another big point. That's a good point by Paul in Ocean City chiming in. You can chime in as well at 609-403-0973. And, of course, your DMs in 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. I'll get to more of your messages coming up on the other side. Of course, still to come, we will talk about what Kendrick Perkins said about the MVP debate. Should Joel Embiid be a front runner for MVP? An interesting perspective from Kendrick Perkins, and more of your text and messages throughout the Power Hour here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM. And yes, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app is free, thanks to First Bank of Seattle.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Maxey with a runner in the air. It's good. A teardrop floater, and Maxey puts it in. All net with the clock dwindling.
The Sixers host the Celtics tomorrow. Coverage begins at 8:30. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey. 97.3 ESPN.
Hey, big guy. Simple credibility approval.
Listen, big guy, try this. Give them more cash for their clunker.
That was my idea.
Why pay more when you can pay 0% with 0 down? So bring any trade to Matt Blatt Kia and drive home in a brand new Kia. Because if you have a job clearing $350 per week, Matt Blatt Kia wants to approve you. Even with 0 down and 0% APR financing for 36 months. Don't see your new Kia on the lot today? That doesn't mean you can't drive it home tomorrow with peace of mind. Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
Rate qualifications exist with approved credit. $27.78 per thousand finance stock in stock 2023 Sorrento hybrid. Not all will qualify. Go to mattblattkianj.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes. Expires 3/3/23. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 and Tom's River.
People who come to Cricket stay with Cricket, just like our customer, Michelle.
As an entrepreneur, every day is different. My phone bill from Cricket, on the other hand, always stays the same. Without surprises, hidden fees, or annual contracts, I can work worry-free.
That's Michelle, everybody, doing business like a boss. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Real customer, paid for testimonial. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Hey, Pete, how's business? It's great. Foot traffic's still way down, but more people are finding me online. Nice. How'd you pull that off? Well, the first thing I did was go to mylocalcustomers.com to see exactly how many searches there were for businesses like mine. So I guess there were a lot? Yeah, there were hundreds of local searches every month. So after I saw that, they helped me position my business online to get in front of those customers. That's awesome. I wonder how many people are searching for my services around here. Well, it's quick and easy to get the answer. Plus, it's free. Just go to mylocalcustomers.com to find out. If there are a lot of searches, you should definitely get in front of them. If there aren't, no harm, no foul.
Go to mylocalcustomers.com for a free local customer analysis that will show you how many customers are searching online for your type of business. It's quick, easy, and free. Visit mylocalcustomers.com. That's mylocalcustomers.com.
I'll second guest dinners with friends because they can be interrupted by diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or oily stools. It turns out I have EPI, or exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, which means I'm missing the enzymes needed to digest food. My doctor prescribed Creon, pancrelipase, an oral prescription medication that replaces pancreatic digestive enzymes. Creon treats EPI due to cystic fibrosis, chronic pancreatitis, pancreatectomy, or other conditions.
Creon may increase your chance of fibrosing colonopathy, a rare bowel disorder. Tell your doctor if you have a history of intestinal blockage or scarring or thickening of your bowel wall, if you're allergic to pork, or if you have gout, kidney problems, or worsening of painful swollen joints. Call your doctor if you have any unusual or severe gastrointestinal symptoms or allergic reactions. Take Creon as directed by your doctor and always with food. Do not chew capsules, as this may cause mouth irritation. Other side effects may include blood sugar changes, gas, dizziness, sore throat, and cough. These are not all the side effects of Creon.
Creon is the #1 prescribed EPI treatment. Ask your doctor about Creon for EPI and visit creoninfo.com or call 800-633-9110 to learn more. That's CREON info.com.
Hey, sports fans, Mike Ryan here, top contributor, wagerpro.com. I have an absolute blowout winner in the NBA that I'm looking to share absolutely free right now on a 30-second recorded message. So call now and get the blowout winner, New York, Washington, 800-499-3733. That's 800-499-3733. New York, Washington. I absolutely love this game, guys. This line is a gigantic mistake. I see it as being off double digits of what it should actually be, and I'm releasing it right now on a 30-second recorded message. So simply call 800-499-3733. New York, Washington, blowout winner, absolutely free on a recorded message. Call now, 800-499-3733. New York, Washington, absolutely free. Call now, 800-499-3733.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
When you can't stop, there's Vicks VapoRub. Vicks VapoRub sends powerful medicated Vicks vapors right to the source of your... so you can experience cough relief and breathe easier. Generations of families have trusted Vicks VapoRub to help relieve the worst cold symptoms. So next time you have a cough, reach for the Vicks VapoRub. Vicks VapoRub. Cough relieving is believing.
For exceptional savings on your next BMW, visit BMW of Atlantic City. Lease a new 2023 BMW X1 xDrive 28i for $559 a month for 36 months. Or lease a new 2023 BMW X3 xDrive 30i for $599 a month for 36 months. Plus, we'll pay top dollar for your current vehicle. Visit BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think. Located in Egg Harbor Township and online at bmwatlanticcity.com. For more details, call us toll-free at 609-316-2393.
You're listening to Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
That was Hennig Perkins on SportsCenter talking about Joel Embiid, the front runner for MVP. I'm Josh Hennig, hanging out with you for the Power Hour on Friday night here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Get to hear text in just a moment at 609-403-0973. Now, we'll get deeper into Perkins' reasoning for why Embiid should be the front runner for MVP. Look, I think as I talked about with Mike Vorkanoff yesterday from The Athletic, I talked with Brian Toporek about this last week from the NBA podcast. To me, I think that part of the conversation when it comes to MVP is completely flawed anyway, because we have this debate about what does MVP really mean? Is the most valuable player? Is the guy with the best stats? Because if it's the guy with the best stats, then obviously Jokic is the MVP. But if it's the guy who's the most valuable, I don't think Jokic should be MVP. And I think that last night was an example why Joel should be in the conversation. And he probably already should have won one of these awards already. And that is, he impacts the game on both ends of the court. And I think that part of Embiid's downfall is that he cares so much about winning that it puts an inordinate amount of pressure on himself to be successful. And I think that the issue in the NBA today is that the people who don't cover Embiid in a day in and day out basis, they look at Jokic and they look at the stats. And it's one of the greatest flaws in sports when it comes to people who work in my business. They claim to cover sports. They claim to be engaged. But what they're really doing is they're saying, well, I'm only watching certain games, not every game. And the games that I watch, here's what I saw. And the problem is with that is you're asking people who don't see that Embiid does more on defense than Jokic does. I'm not saying that Nikola Jokic is a bum defensively. What I am saying is that Embiid makes a greater impact on the defensive end of the court. Now, if you're asking me if I had to pick somebody to be MVP, it's probably Luka Doncic. And I don't want to hear about Jokic having this triple-double season. Look, part of getting a triple-double is, and you're the number one seed. You're the number one team in the Western Conference. Assists means that your teammates are making shots. And when you have the best record, it could be made that if you took Jokic out of the lineup for a few weeks, the Nuggets are still winning games with Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray and Bruce Brown in that starting lineup. They're not what Luka has had to carry half the year. And frankly, we know what the Sixers are like without Embiid. They struggle. They are not the same team offensively or defensively. So I think that Perkins saying that, it's not far-fetched. Now, here's Perkins' explanation is similar to mine about the defense, about why Embiid deserves more respect. This is Kendrick Perkins on ESPN Television Sports Center. And Perkins is right. The defense has to be factored in. You know, one of the reasons why we talk about people like Hakeem Olajuwon and Wilt Chamberlain as among the best all time is not just because of their offense. It's because of their defense. The reason why people look at these certain players a certain way is they can do more than just score. The regular fan loves to see scoring of points on the board and big games by Steph Curry. But people who are basketball junkies know that at the end of the day, you can't win a championship if you stink defensively. Never happened and never will happen, because ultimately you still have to get stops in a playoff game. When the Cavs beat the Warriors, they went huge stretches of time without scoring in that seventh game. And it wasn't because both teams stink. It wasn't because both teams have horrible offenses. No, it was because both teams were playing such high-level defense that neither one wanted to give up the game-winning shot. So when we talk about MVP, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here, 50 minutes from Philadelphia, 15 minutes from Atlantic City in South Jersey. I'm not just saying it because you, the fan, listening on 97.3 ESPN FM or tuning in on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. I'm saying this because it's the truth. And the truth is that we have people who have so hyper-inflated Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets, when the reality is that aside from the MVPs, Jokic's success is no different than Embiid. Jokic has got the hardware, Embiid doesn't, but yet neither one has been to an NBA final. Neither one of them has gotten their teams to be a perennial conference finals contender. It's not happened. The Nuggets have lost to all kinds of teams over the years in the first and second rounds. Now, it wasn't always Jokic's fault, so I'm not saying it is, but we have to stop acting like Embiid is lesser than these other guys. Embiid is probably going to win the scoring title this year, and it's because he's that good. When was the last time we talked about a big man winning scoring titles? It was Shaq. That's what we're talking about here. The last time we as sports fans had a real conversation about a big man winning the scoring title, Shaq led the league with 29.7 points per game back in the 99-2000 season. That's what we're talking about. That's how special Embiid is. And then you add the defense into it on top of everything. It's incredible. Let me tell you who won the scoring titles from Shaq in 99-2000 till Embiid last year. Iverson, 2 straight years, small guard. McGrady, 2 straight years, shooting guard. Iverson. Kobe Bryant for 2 straight years. You know who he is. LeBron James, all-time scoring leader now. Dwayne Wade, one of the best players of the last 20 years. Kevin Durant won it for 3 straight years. But even though he's almost 7 foot tall, he was doing it from the outside as a perimeter scorer. Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant again, Russell Westbrook, again, point guard. Steph Curry, one of the greatest three-point shooters, and not the greatest of all time. Russell Westbrook again. James Harden for 3 straight years. Combo guard. Steph Curry again, then Embiid. So if Embiid keeps playing great defense and goes out there and wins another scoring title, and he's still not MVP, then let's be realistic. People just don't like Embiid. If you're going to give Jokic the MVP again, when he's on arguably the best regular season team in the Western Conference and the second best regular season team this year behind the Boston Celtics, and you're going to tell me that he's had the best statistical season he's ever had, not buying it. It's the most valuable player, not the most outstanding stat line. Defense still has to matter because guess what? As I said before, no one has ever won an NBA championship with a bad defense. It just hasn't happened. Game Night being brought to you by friends over at Jenkins & Sons. No need to call the drain guy, the heater guy, or the plumbing guy because Jenkins technicians have got you covered. From new heating and air installation, service and maintenance, drain cleaning services, ductless air conditioning systems, leak repairs, gas furnace boiler, or hot water heater replacements, just call Jenkins at 609-641-6440 and ask about zero interest financing online at jenkinsandsons.com. Over on the text board at 609-403-0973. Texter did leave their name, but said that John Morant is the most athletic in the league right now. See, here's the problem why I said he was one of. And I love when people send these like declarative messages in because you know who you are. You're the guy who listens and then just reacts to things. You're the guy who's walking down, you hear something at the bar, let's say, and you're like, I don't agree with that. And then you give me nothing else. So I'm going to give you more than you gave me, anonymous texter. And here's what it is. Most athletic in the NBA is a subjective conversation, because when you look at what makes somebody athletic, is it speed? Is it power? Is it explosion? Is it, jumping ability? I said Ja is one of the three best because it depends on how you measure these things. There's a lot of people who say that De'Aaron Fox is the fastest guy in the league. Well, that means he's faster than Ja. But we know Ja is fast too. You look at a guy like Giannis. Giannis is probably the most physically gifted. That's why he's called the Greek freak. He is a freak physically. Now, he's not as fast as De'Aaron Fox. He doesn't jump as high as De'Aaron Fox, but I guess he's also taller than Fox. I mean, Giannis has got one of the longest reaches in the NBA, and he's not even a full 7-footer. Giannis can do things physically that Ja can't. You look at certain other guys in the league, and you have to say, well, an Anthony Edwards or a Zach LaVine. These guys are freaks as well. So is Donovan Mitchell. So I don't think it's as simple as demonstrably saying Ja Morant is the most athletic. I can't give you that because the argument can be made that other people are in the conversation. I think that people, because here's part of the problem. Not every fan gets to watch every game. It's impossible. The whole premise of SportsCenter being born over 30 plus years ago was because ESPN said, we're going to watch every game because you can. And even in today's world, that's full of highlights and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and Twitch and all these different things and Facebook Reels and YouTube, you can't see everything. And I don't know how many people actually get to watch Anthony Edwards frequently enough. I think Anthony Edwards is one of the three best athletes in the league, easily. If you ask me who the big three are, it's Edwards, it's Morant, it's Mitchell. Those are the big three. And I don't think it's a clear cut for any one of those three. And I think if Giannis was a little more twitchy in terms of like burst and explosion, I think he'd be in that conversation as well. I think he's the next tier under those guys. I think guys like Giannis, Zach LaVine, when he's healthy, Anthony Edwards. I mean, those guys are special athletes as well. And that's a weird thing about the NBA. The NBA is full of special athletes. That's why Mac McClung can win the slam dunk competition. And he does it so clean and precisely, is because the league is full of phenomenal athletes. I always hate the concept, oh, so-and-so stinks. So-and-so shouldn't be in the league. Easy for you to say, you don't play in the league. People act like they're these great evaluators of talent because fill in the blank player doesn't make X number of free throws, or they can't make 3-pointers consistently. There's a reason why they're in the league, because they can play. So, and listen, I know a lot of people don't like the Celtics, but who's a phenomenal athlete as well? Jaylen Brown. That dude is a freakazoid as well. He's got to be in that conversation. I mean, up and down the league. I mean, Bridges with Charlotte. I mean, the way that guy, his burst, his explosion, his leaping ability. Aaron Gordon, he's still one of the best athletes in the league, and he's had multiple injuries over the years. And I can keep going on with names. So, it's not as simple as saying Ja Morant's the best. It's too simplistic for me. Dave from Violence had an interesting text, and we're going to get to that on the other side, because I think this text is a great point by David about how we evaluate players when it comes to the MVP. 609-403-0973. More of your messages coming up next with me, Josh Hennig, the Power Hour here, known as Game Night on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action.
Scores! Morgan Cross buries it.
It's Flyers Canadians tonight. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN. And listen live on the free mobile app.
Kindle Auto Plaza has the area's largest selection of pre-owned vehicles of all makes and models. With over 80 pre-owned vehicles on their huge 100-acre lot. Everything from sporty coupes to SUVs to trucks. Kindle offers the area's best buying experience, easy and hassle-free, with 60 years of customer satisfaction and community service. Discover why Kindle customers are so loyal. Shop for your next pre-owned vehicle at Kindle Auto Plaza, exit 10 of the Parkway on Stone Harbor Boulevard, or at KindleAutoplaza.com.
If you have an IRA or 401k, please listen closely. My name is Jason Hansen. I'm a former CIA officer and New York Times bestselling author. Throughout my career, let's just say I've been in some hairy situations. And I believe right now, the biggest threat facing Americans is they need to protect their wealth, which is exactly what I'm doing for my wife and 6 kids. And I believe the ultimate safe haven is physical gold and silver. You can protect your hard-earned retirement assets with a tax-free loophole that allows you to convert your retirement into physical gold and silver. The folks I use are Advantage Gold, and believe me, I've investigated the heck out of all types of people. Advantage Gold is the nation's highest rated gold company. They have the best process, pricing, and service. If you want to get your free gold and silver investment kit, please contact Advantage Gold right now, and you'll see how easy it is to protect yourself with precious metals. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000. 800-900-8000.
Advantage Gold is not an investment advisor or a tax advisor. Consult with your financial advisor before investing.
Call 800-900-8000.
I guess one time isn't gonna kill me.
It's totally safe. We do this all the time.
There's no way these drugs are laced, right?
Trust me, you're gonna be fine.
We just need to forget everything.
It'll be fine.
A lethal dose of fentanyl is just 4 grains of sand. It can hide in any drug. So no matter what you and your friends think, what you can't see will kill you. Don't die to get high. Fentanyl is fatal. Get the whole truth at CamdenCounty.com/fentanyl.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Haley, quote, Navage is the best thing I bought. I love it. My nose feels so clear now and I can breathe. I've been struggling with a stuffy nose for weeks. I bought Navage and it's amazing. Or this one. I use Navage every night, could not imagine life without it. I have 5 cats, and before I found Navage, I was a clogged mess. Now I breathe so much better, unquote. Those are 2 of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Hey, sports fans, Mike Ryan here, top contributor, wagerpro.com. I have an absolute blowout winner in the NBA that I'm looking to share absolutely free right now on a 30-second recorded message. So call now and get the blowout winner, New York, Washington, 800-499-3733. That's 800-499-3733. New York, Washington. I absolutely love this game, guys. This line is a gigantic mistake. I see it as being off double digits of what it should actually be, and I'm releasing it right now on a 30-second recorded message. So simply call 800-499-3733. New York, Washington, blowout winner, absolutely free on a recorded message. Call now, 800-499-3733. New York, Washington, absolutely free. Call now, 800-499-3733.
My brother-in-law died suddenly, and now my sister and her kids have to sell their home. That's why I told my husband we could not put off getting life insurance any longer. an agent offered us a 10-year, $500,000 policy for nearly $50 a month. Then we called SelectQuote. SelectQuote found us identical coverage for only $19 a month, a savings of $369 a year.
Whether you need a $500,000 policy or a $5 million policy, SelectQuote could save you more than 50% on term life insurance.
For your free quote, call SelectQuote at 1-800-478-6688. That's 1-800-478-6688. Or go to SelectQuote.com. 1-800-478-6688. That's 1-800-478-6688.
SelectQuote. We shop. You save. Full details on example policies at selectquote.com/commercials.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Corvette. Why would anybody pay sticker or even above sticker when Bennett Chevy is selling new Chevys at GM supplier employee pricing? Think about how much you'll save at Bennett Chevy. While most other dealers are still charging MSRP and above, Bennett Chevy isn't like most dealers, selling new Chevys at GM supplier employee pricing and not a penny more. You'll enjoy a hassle-free discount along with a simpler buying experience. But that's just the beginning. You'll save even more with available 2.99% financing. 2.99%! That's unheard of in today's market. Looking for used? The good news continues. Bring us the worst clunker and get a guaranteed $8,500 towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $8,500 for total junk. Imagine how much more we'll pay for a good trade. And dealing with our non-commissioned sales staff is another hassle-free, delightful experience. Because they're paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Game Night being brought to you by Jenkins and Sons. Find out why homeowners and business owners trust Jenkins. The reliability you only get from a 3-generation family-run company for blunt plumbing, drain cleaning, and leak repairs, for gas furnace boiler or hot water heater replacements. Call Jenkins, 609-641-6440, and online at jenkinsandsons.com. The Flyers hockey coming up at the top of the hour. They take on the Montreal Canadiens here on 973 ESPN FM. And you can listen also on the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. And then tomorrow, Billy Schwein in the locker room from 10 a.m. to noon. Following Billy Schwein, we have a college basketball triple header leading you up to the Sixers Celtics game tomorrow night, which will be at 8:30 here on 973 ESPN. Over on the text board, 609-403-0973. David in Violent chimes in. He says, if Hurts was one of those flashy players, he probably would have had a better shot at MVP. And I think it's a great point by David because MVP has turned into a popularity contest. It's no longer in football and basketball and baseball about who actually is the best player. It's just the guy, the athlete that the majority of the voters like the most, that they appreciate the most. And David is right. Sometimes it's because of how that athlete displays themselves, the way they go about it. You know, Jokic is making no-look passes and getting a triple-double. And these people who cover the NBA, they are so heavily invested in analytics that they can't see straight anymore. They neglect certain numbers because they prioritize other numbers. And the problem is in today's sports world, we prioritize offense so much that we neglect the rest of the game. If the Eagles' defense does their job in the Super Bowl, that game is at minimum going to overtime. But instead, John Gannon and the defense couldn't get the job done. They lose the championship to the Chiefs. And Andy Reid continues to build his championship resume while the Eagles are sitting there picking up the pieces after losing both their coordinators. But we don't talk about that because it's not popular to certain people. Remember, all year I told you guys with the Eagles, their defense will make or break them this year. It got them to the championship, but couldn't win them the chip. So this idea that we are giving Nikola Jokic a pass on the defense, but we're giving Embiid no credit for defense because defense isn't flashy, unless it's a highlight like last night when Embiid blocks the John Morant dunk. And David and Violent is right. If Hurts had those Patrick Mahomes no-look passes or those crazy throws that Mahomes makes, you know for a fact that he's looked at differently. If Hurts was throwing for 5,000 passing yards like Drew Brees, we would treat him differently. But because he's a mobile quarterback, we act like he can't play in the NFL. And just like in college, he's runner-up to a guy who had a flashy statistical season. I'm not saying that Mahomes and Burrow should not have won MVP and Heisman respectively. What I'm saying is that Hurts put up incredible seasons and lost awards in those seasons at Oklahoma in 2019 and for the Eagles this past season to two guys, Burrow at LSU and Mahomes with the Chiefs, who showed you something historic. Burrow had one of the greatest passing seasons in college football history. Patrick Mahomes literally carried an offense at times that didn't really have the personnel to win a championship, but they evolved and grew into a championship team despite the fact that they lost to the Colts and they went to overtime with the Houston Texans and they couldn't beat Buffalo and Cincinnati in the regular season. They showed you that when the chips were down, when the going got tough, when they had to win a game, Patrick Mahomes was the man, and he deserves all the credit for it. Jalen Hurts is not flashy. But that's also why he's valuable. Over on the text board, Matt in Delaware chimes in at 609-403-0973. Says triple doubles are not easy to get, and I understand that. But for ESPN and other sports networks to make it be a stat that leads to wins is not accurate. Mavs and Luka are barely about 500. And the year Russ had the triple doubles, I think he barely made the playoffs. It's an overrated stat. That's from Matt in Delaware. Here's the thing, Matt. I don't think it's overrated, but I think it's overhyped. Because as you said, a lot of sports networks hyper focus on the stat. By the way, you only care about the triple-double because of what Russ did. When Russ averaged triple-double for that season on that mediocre OKC Thunder team, that's the reason why you started to care about triple-doubles again, because Russ took a stat that had kind of been overlooked and made it into something. You're right. The year that Russ had the triple-double season and he won MVPs, those Thunder teams were not very good. And Luka this year is on a team that before they got Kyrie was literally him and the band of misfit toys out there trying to win every night. I don't think that we appreciate the fact that Jokic is on a great team this year, and it has helped his stat line. It has allowed him to be more efficient. It has elevated his game. You can only get better if you are a great player, if you're also surrounded by great players. LeBron James's stats are way better in Miami than they were in Cleveland. Why? Because he was with great players and they helped him elevate his game. Kobe scored more points without Pau Gasol, but he was more efficient and won championships with Pau Gasol and earlier with Shaq. It's not a coincidence. And Matt in Delaware is right. It's the obsession by certain people that think that these stat lines automatically lead to wins. When in reality, the wins allow you to get those stat lines. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Saturday morning in the locker room with Billy Schwein, we have a special show lined up. Former 3-time All-Big Ten linebacker Brad Quast joins me in the studio. The sportsbook consigliere Dave Sherapan checks in from Las Vegas with his preseason favorites in Major League Baseball. Hour 2, we have a very special guest. On the 43rd anniversary of the USA hockey team defeating the Russians, Captain Mike Eruzione will join us to reminisce about the miracle on ice. All that and more. It's the locker room with Billy Schwein, Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.